NFL quarterback Danny Kanell is here.
What up, good looking?
How we doing?
See ya.
No, I try to bring it for you guys. I try to bring it for you
always look good, man.
You casket sharp, man.
And y'all can't see the Gucci boots he's wearing. It's the fourth different pair of Gucci shoes he's wearing.
No, I think I wore these before.
Sure.
All right, let's talk some football since fashion-wise you're over my head. Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers needed a win and some help from the Browns to make the playoffs. Start with the Steelers. Kicker Matt McCrane from 35 yards out, putting the Steelers up 16-13. That would be the final score, so they get the win. Let's go to the Browns-Ravens now. Remember, Steelers need a Cleveland win to get in. Players, fans watching on the Jumbotron, rooting hard for Baker and the boys, but on 4th and 10, Baker gets picked off by C.J. Mosley. Ravens win the game and the AFC North. Steelers will be staying home. Here is Big Ben Roethlisberger on if his team underachieved this year.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not the coach. I'm not the owners. I just try and play quarterback. And, first thing I'll do is look in the mirror and say I need to play better. And I'll always say it starts there.
We accept the outcome. Obviously, we've had 17 weeks, man, to state a case for ourselves. We stand by our work. You have to in this business. But I am appreciative of the efforts today. It is what it is.
All right, Danny, so yeah, they had 17 weeks to get it done. What didn't happen down the stretch? I mean, why are they not in the playoffs this morning?
So that question that Ben was asked, like, this is the most underachieving team in the NFL this year and maybe the last 2 years, considering the way last year ended up in the playoffs with them getting smoked at home against Jacksonville. Full disclosure, I've been all over the map with this team. Like, when they beat the Carolina Panthers that Thursday night game, I'm like, oh, Steelers are for real. Like, they're legit. Yeah, they're legit. That defense looks really good. I think it falls on two people, and it's the two people we just heard from. I think there is a lack of real leadership within this organization in Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. The better teams that I've ever played on, there has been attention to detail. There has been a mindset of we can't let off the gas. We have to stay consistent. And this team has been absolutely all over the map with, to me, it tells me there's something with the preparation leading into the games. That they're not, if you can't come out and perform as poorly as they did in the three-game losing streak, when they go on the road to the Oakland Raiders, there is no excuse for them to lose that game. They do. Like, you just don't see that happening.
Even
with
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it ended up not mattering because the Ravens won and the Steelers won, but barely. I mean, that was, there was with, as we got into the 4 o'clock window on yesterday afternoon, it looked like, oh my God, the Ravens might lose and still win the division because the Steelers could blow this game against Jeff Driscoll and the Bengals.
I tell you what, I go back to ownership. Ownership should have gave Le'Veon Bell his money. Now you would have had 2 running backs. And listen, listen, one of the cheaper organizations in the league, yeah, they'll pay their quarterback, but they don't pay guys. And they had an opportunity to pay Le'Veon Bell early. You knew early on that this kid was special. They could have locked him up, and they were surprised that he didn't want to be used like a rental car, and so they can burn all the tread off his tires so he couldn't get paid in the offseason. They should have addressed this situation a long time ago, lock Le'Veon Bell up and being able to have their 3 Bs for the foreseeable future, and they missed the opportunity. And now they have to, they made their bed, now they have to lie in it.
Well, even without Le'Veon, though, they still have Antonio Brown, one of the best. They still have Juju Smith-Schuster. James Conner did a really good job filling in for him. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback, and they still underperformed. So even without Le'Veon, they still should have made the playoffs.
Well, you had to mask that horrible defense. I know they play well in spurts because it's Blitzburg and all that stuff, but the loss of Ryan Shazier to play a 3-4 attacking style zone blitzing defense, you have to have a great inside linebacker. They had one, unfortunately that he got injured, but they couldn't replace him. So
John gets his money. I think he will. I think he's going to be happy with what he did. But to your point, even without Le'Veon Bell, let's just say Le'Veon the first game of the year got injured, right? How about when you're down 7 at the goal line against Denver in the final minute? Big Ben doesn't throw a pick. How about the next week? You don't blow a 16-point lead at home against the Chargers. Make one play defensively that entire second half. How about the Raider game? You don't blow a 4-point lead with 2 minutes left to Derek Carr and the Raiders. You have a 4th and goal from the 6-yard line to win the game and win your division. How about a half dozen moments in the Saints game where they could have had a rallying great win? Like, even without Le'Veon Bell, even if not having him took him from Super Bowl favorite to just conference contender, there's no excuse for this team to not be in the playoffs. And Danny, it's not like 08 when the Pats won 11 games and missed the playoffs.
Right.
This was not a year where their division was way out of reach. They needed to get to 9-6. I'm sorry, they needed to get to 10-5-1. They needed 10 wins to win the division, and they couldn't do it. That falls on everyone. And even though I love Tomlin as a coach, of course some of this falls on him. Even though Big Ben's a future first ballot Hall of Famer, of course some of this falls on him. This is an organizational disaster for them.
So, and it even goes back to week 1 against the Browns.
Yeah.
They blew that game. I mean, that was a game without Baker Mayfield. In week 1, I think
if that's a win, they win the division.
Exactly.
they should have lost that game if they had a kicker.
Right. So, but they come back. So this is where I feel like it falls on the leadership, because when they were having this unbelievable streak, when they're getting there and they beat Carolina, I'm like, you know what? Maybe, because Mike Tomlin's players coach, by all accounts, likes to let the guys have freedom to say what they want. You know, you've seen the offensive linemen come out and they trash Le'Veon Bell.
Because it's worked in years past.
Exactly. So I gave him a pass. But deep down inside, I'm telling myself, you know what? That really doesn't work in the NFL. What happens when you face adversity? Some of that infighting starts to show, and it breaks teams apart as opposed to building it up. What about Ben Roethlisberger when he's throwing dudes under the bus left and right after the Denver Broncos game?
Again, he's done that for years.
I know, but that's why I can't believe I fell into the trap of thinking they were good this year. Because ultimately, there is a lack of leadership in the 2 most important positions in that organization, and I think that's been their downfall.
But the reason why this year is going to stick with them all offseason and years in the future is they actually beat the Pats this year. Patriots aren't that good. The #1 seed in the AFC is a team historically in distant memory and recent memory they have owned in the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a year where if the Steelers could have just gone for 11-5, they could be sitting there as the 2 seed saying, okay, worst case scenario is we play a Chiefs team who prior to this season we'd beaten 5 in a row. Like, the Patriots are on their last gasp. You actually beat them, and you're not even going to get to rematch them in the postseason. That's why it's such a killer. Like, the Pats had been their bugaboo forever. They finally slay that dragon, and it's meaningless. The Pats still get a bye, and they go home. It's like that game never happened.
All right, Danny, stick around. Got to take a break. Coming up, is the Magic back in Philadelphia? That's next.